Welcome, listeners, to today's episode of the Black Business Roundtable. Back after an outstanding Thanksgiving, I am ready for today. East Coast and West Coast political wins and losses follow up. I am your host, Doug Blacksher, broadcasting to you live from the city of diversity, Oakland, California, and in the winning circles of several candidates who have been participating on this show. As always, my ride or die, Dr. Ashley Coleman, Doctor of Psychology, is here, but is also coming back is Political Commentator via our sister podcast show host, Quandra Gains, host of two podcasts on the BlackUSA.News network. Quandra's podcast, Political Cipher with Q, airing Wednesday at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, and Community Connections, Resources and Gardening airing Saturdays at 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Hashtag Quandra Gains and Political Cipher with Q. Hashtag Community Connections, Resources, and Gardening. As always, thank you. Thank you, Doni Glover of BlackUSA.News for the honor and privilege of the Black Business Roundtable being a part of your growing network dedicated to bringing the real, unfiltered news for the news. Hashtag BlackUSA.News, hashtag Doni Glover. Today, December 1st, 2022, as noted from the National Day Calendar. Their website is nationaldaycalendar.com. Today is Rosa Parks Day honors an American civil rights hero twice a year on February 4th and December 1st. The holiday recognized the civil rights leader Rosa Parks, hashtag Rosa Parks Day. It is also Clerk Gallaudet Week. Did you know that the first exceptional deaf teacher in America was actually a Frenchman? His name is Laurent Clerc. And as a young man, he befriended Thomas Hopkins Gallaudet. The two would make history when they founded the American's first permanent deaf school in the United States of America. Hashtag Clerk Gallaudet Week, Operation Santa Paws, not Santa Claus, Santa Paws, and encourages animal lovers to share the gift of giving at shelters everywhere from December 1st through December 24th. Hashtag Operation Santa Paws. People should be encouraged to love their animals and animals in general. Thank you, National Day Calendar website, nationaldaycalendar.com. Some current events in the news today. In the local politics of Oakland, California. I gotta say that again, audience, because it has been an awesome day here in Oakland and Alameda County for changing of the guard, putting progressive leaders in elected positions that can fix the devastated, destructive behavior of the previous mayor and the previous district attorney. Mayor of Oakland, California, and district attorney of Alameda County has been replaced. Libby has termed out, and O'Malley has chosen not to run again. Moving on, in the politics of Oakland, California, our endorsed candidate Shane Tao was declared the new mayor of Oakland, California, just before Thanksgiving. And I was honored to escort her to the stage of a press conference in front of City Hall, where she will soon be the mayor, the new mayor of Oakland, California. That is a Thanksgiving to be thankful for. I will tell you why this took a while to confirm. The invitation by our previous guest, Creighton Davis, Esquire, to come to the soft opening of his new establishment in downtown Oakland, Kinfolk's Coffee and Wine Bar, Instagram, Kinfolk's Coffee, the new hotspot, the new spot for coffee, wine, culture. Stop by and see the art installation. Check out the coffee or the wine list depending on the time. Address 1951 Telegraph Avenue in Oakland, California. So East Coast, Middle United States, if you come to California, make sure you stop by Kinfolk's. Reminder, the First Lady Michelle Obama has released her new book, The Light We Carry, Overcoming in Uncertain Times, and it surely will be a hit. Hashtag Michelle Obama, hashtag Robin Roberts, hashtag The Light We Carry. This week's Black Business Roundtable thumbs up goes to all those candidates who ran for office. And as I pointed out a couple of segments ago, because last week we were on Thanksgiving vacation, we want to thank you for running, whether you win, whether you lose, or whether it was a draw. Let's be clear, America. Running for office is a grueling test of character and perseverance. It is tough. It takes away from your family. It takes away from your friends. You're always out there shaking hands. You're in debates. You're in forums. Thumbs up goes to all the candidates who took the time to represent you or run to represent you. Congratulations. And this week's thumbs down. I said I would start naming companies that are not headquartered in Oakland, California, yet reaping benefits, and that Oakland small businesses. BGI, Baines Group Incorporated. Michael Baines, president and CEO, has been a gatekeeper for contracts here in Oakland, and he is not based here in Oakland. He only has an office. I've been in contact with the City of Oakland's certification program and processes, and I will be following up. So thumbs down goes to Michael Baines of Baines Group Incorporated for taking contracts away from Oakland-based businesses, and his business is in San Francisco, and San Francisco will not even allow Oakland-based business to come over there and compete. So remember, if you are going to clown the Black Business Roundtable, we'll give you the thumbs down. Today's show highlights. Today, Christmas is in the air. Can you smell it? Christmas is in the air. Politics in Georgia are too. We are talking about East-West Coast elections and how things shook out. Quandra Gains in local elections and also here in San Francisco Bay Area. So let's start December off right. Today is December 1st. Let's start it off right with our East Coast, West Coast political commentary. with my ride or die sister, friend, colleague. And the second half of the dynamic duel of this show, as we give you the scoop of Oakland right here on the Black Business Roundtable, December 1st, 2022. Ho, ho, ho! Damn, it's almost Christmas. Hey, Dr. Ashley.
Hey, Doug.
As you can see, I am fired up and excited. My candidate, if this was the trifecta, if this was the Kentucky Derby, I would be cashing in today. We had a magnificent win column for Oakland and Alameda County. To that end, my co-host and show guests today include weekly check-in with our very own Dr. Ashley Coleman, Doctor of Psychology, tenured and immediate past department chair, Assistant Professor of Psychology at University of the West. Welcome back, Dr. Ashley.
Thank you, Doug. Hello and happy December.
Wow. Audience, I only see Dr. Ashley once a week. We don't rehearse. We are like hands in a glove. We just come in and mesh and we just go to work. So, Dr. Ashley, God has truly blessed me with a counterpart on media that we can enlighten, inform, and teach our people across this nation and in several other countries. Thank you for being a part of that. The half. This is the half and you the other half. So without the two halves, you have no whole.
Thank you, Doug. So happy to be here with you as always.
And also, guest on the show today, East Coast Connection, Quandra Gains. She currently hosts two podcasts on blackusanews.com called Political Cipher with Q that airs on Wednesday at 7 p.m. and Community Connections, Resources and Gardening, which airs on Saturdays at 9 a.m. and that is East Coast time. Now for the national political highlights. Mm-hmm. Are you ready, Georgia? Georgia Democrat, girl, I might have to start squeezing something around there. Georgia Democratic candidate Senator Raphael Warnock, #OneGeorgia, and that's ONE Georgia, is right now in a runoff election due to the coming up just shy of 50% of the Georgia vote. Early voting is November 28th, December 2nd through December 2nd, and runoff election day is December 6th. Go vote and take a carload of registered voters, especially those that are without transportation or seniors, members of your community with you. Vote, people. Vote, people. That is the voice you have. In Oakland, California, in Alameda County, we voted and we got what we wanted, and we're going to hold them accountable. Thank you, Oakland. Thank you, Alameda County, for getting out there and vote and changing the landscape in Oakland, California, and Alameda County. Instagram at Raphael Warnock or his website, Warnock4Georgia.com. And that's FOR, Warnock4, FOR, Georgia.com. #Warnock4Senate. And now, one of the things I love, Dr. Ashley, when I see you, you can tell I'm very hyper. I got my Pamela Price victory purple on because, that was her color. Mm-hmm. I'm telling you, before you go ahead, Dr. Ashley, I have this audience. I look forward to seeing Pamela Price changing the landscape of the judicial system that has devastated Black and brown people in this city and this county for decades. We have a civil rights attorney who's going to be representing all people in our judicial system and through the DA's office. To that end, next up, our weekly check-in as I've been practicing, with our very own Dr. Ashley Coleman, Doctor of Psychology. Dr. Ashley, please take us away. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug, and greeting listeners. Today is the 67th anniversary of Rosa Parks refusing to give up her seat. So, as always, we want to acknowledge the Equal Justice Initiative, their daily calendar that keeps us up to date with historical moments. So, again, on this day, December 1st, 1955, police arrested Rosa Parks for violating bus segregation laws in Alabama. Um, if you're not familiar with this story, haven't told a young person about this story, we have to remember we have to be orators of our history, especially as limitations are going forth about critical race theory and other historical events. So be sure to support the calendar. We know on this day, December 1st, 1955, in Montgomery, Alabama, police arrested seamstress and activist Miss Rosa Parks for refusing to give up her seat on a segregated city bus. And her stand helped spark the Montgomery bus boycott, which remains one of the most well-known campaigns of the civil rights movement. However, Mrs. Parks' work for racial justice long preceded this courageous act. She was also very active in the local NAACP chapter, and she was the chapter's only female member in 1943 and had served as both the youth leader and secretary. She also frequently traveled throughout Alabama to interview Black people who had suffered racial terror, violence, or other injustices. And in 1944, she investigated the Ableville, Alabama gang rape of a young Black woman named Miss Reese Taylor, and joined with other civil rights activists to organize a national campaign demanding prosecution of the white men responsible. And on a personal note, twofold. Well, one, we want to acknowledge that on December 1st, 2019, a statue of Mrs. Parks was dedicated in Montgomery. And then also on a personal note, I believe is in 2005, when she transitioned, her body was presented at the Capitol, where the public, we were able to line up and pay tribute. And so as a undergraduate student at the Mecca, Howard University, I stood in line for hours to be able to pay tribute to Mrs. Parks. And it was one of the highlights of my experience there. So talk about just being able to pay homage in a way that felt very personal.
Dr. Ashley, you bring stories to life.
Thank you, Doug.
Audience, please, the stories that you hear on our show are to inform, and if you don't remember anything else that I'm going to say today, let's not let history repeat itself. Voting is the way you do that. Thank you. And next up, once again, with our very own, we want to check in with our very own. See, I'm more before the show. I go in the mirror and I go, she's not mine, she's ours. She's not mine, she's ours. With our very own Dr. Ashley Coleman, Doctor of Psychology. Dr. Ashley, please take us away. Thank you.
Thank you, Doug. And so again, I am hoping that our listeners had a wonderful Thanksgiving. Here we are, just taking inventory. How did that Thanksgiving dinner go? Was there laughter? Were there memorable conversations? Were there recipes shared? I know in my family, the giblet gravy recipe was shared, and I had a personal moment of being able to witness my grandmother teach my mother how to make the gravy. My great grandmother was the one who made it, and just the passing down. And so I snapped a picture, but also had it seared in my memory to try to savor the moments of connection. Your Thanksgiving also may have been different. missing people that weren't at the table that typically were? And did you take time to allow yourself to feel that as well? We made it on the other side of Thanksgiving, and now we're in the, you know me, sports analogies, we're in the fourth quarter of the year. We have 31 days starting today, an opportunity for us to finish the year differently than how it started, no matter what that is, getting to the finish line. So I want to encourage, again, all of you to consider, how do you want to finish the year? Are there any activities that you want to do? Have you reflected on what you've accomplished? First of all, you're still here. So that's a victory in and of itself. And then, what were the wins of the year? What were some of the losses and lessons of the year as well? What are some supports that maybe you need that you didn't have access to, that you may have an opportunity to get access to now? Thinking about how you want your December to be and how you want to go into the new year is so important. We're constantly thinking about, again, vitamin D, healthy living, healthy eating, mindful of symptoms of seasonal affective disorder, your sleep, your mood, physical activity, water intake, boundaries. Is this now a good time to maybe check in with a mental health professional? If you're interested in connecting with a therapist, making that call today, starting the month off saying, I need support, I deserve support. If you're interested, there's therapyforblackgirls.com, therapyforblackmen.org. You can always, if you're in crisis or someone you love is in crisis, dial 988 24/7 to get emergency support, especially if you're having thoughts of wanting to harm or kill yourself, or a loved one is having those types of thoughts. You can always text 741-741 24/7 and have a text message conversation if you need support or you're learning, looking for ways to how to help someone else. But now is a wonderful time to consider trying again, but this time with more support and more compassion. So just taking inventory, we have 31 days, 31 opportunities to try again. And so that's what's on my mind in this holiday spirit, Doug, is how to finish the year as strong as I can.
Audience, let me be clear, and specifically the Black audience.
Mm-hmm.
We have people who are hurting, and not
Mm-hmm.
physically, mentally, through these challenging times of lack of economic equity and quality, through these times of lack of good water. And I was just reading a story where, you know what I'm talking about, a story
Yes.
where a town in 2020 is just getting running water, a Black town. I'm talking about a time where getting a job is based on sometimes, oftentimes, your race, your
Mm-hmm.
color. And even if you get the job, they don't pay you equitably as they would pay your counter white parts. And I could go on and on and on. So that could cause a splinter in your brain.
Mm-hmm.
We're way ahead of time, so I'm going to take a brief.
Good, Doug. Please do, because I want to jump in too. Let's expand this conversation because you're making some salient points, especially given the layoffs that we keep receiving notification come from companies across this country. One just in particular, too, that stands out. They received their layoff notice overnight via text message and will not be eligible for COBRA. So we're talking about loss of employment and insurance benefits just like that.
Well, that also brings me to the point of, even with big businesses now, when you go into some of these large corporations, they have a lot of Black worker bees,
Mm-hmm.
but they have maybe one or two symbolic leaders, supervisors. managers, people.
Mhm.
It is incumbent on you large corporations to diversify your management, because some of the management people in these large corporations do not manage Black people as they do the rest of the people. So, on that note, getting back on the psychological
Mhm.
impact
Mhm.
of that, where you have qualified Black men and women who are working side by a less qualified white person, and they have to um, succumb because they have a home, they have kids, they have bills. And one quick story, I used to work for this large company, and after a litigation, I come to find out that the management people who worked less hours than I did, who had less skills than I had, I used to hear them talking about buying boats and modeling their homes. And I would say, well, gosh, we make the same amount of money. How can it? But after we litigated, you have something called disclosure. Some of these white boys were making 50 to 75% more than I was making. 50 to 75% more making. And that impacts your life.
Mhm.
So, to that end, corporate America, get your act together. You have some very talented people out there. And brothers and sisters, so that you don't lose it, because you hear more so white people getting guns and doing these outrageous terrorist acts with going in and killing people as they had recently. I am just speechless when I say to myself, Black people have subdued themselves enough to say, hey, we got to get through this. We start drinking, not having problems with our family and friends, because psychologically it's got to be affecting you. Go take the advice of Dr. Ashley and get help to deal with these gross misjustice, unfair things that are happening. Either it be at work, when you go to a store and you get a security guard that will follow you around because you are Black, or you go to a town that the sheriff or the police officers will stereotype you. So listen to Dr. Ashley, get the help. And Dr. Ashley, can you give that number again for people who do not have insurance, since they're doing all these layoffs, or they could just make a phone call? I think in California we have Medi-Cal and Medicare, and I believe they provide assistance for and mental health. Thank you, Dr. Ashley.
Sure. So for emergencies and to get resources, you can always dial 211. For emergency resources, the number is 988 or 911, or visiting the nearest emergency room, again, in times of crisis. And then for resources, also texting 741 741. Doug, you make an excellent point. And since we have a little more time, I also want to make a plea to people. This time of year not only brings up stress of loss or pain of loss, but also the stress of creating Christmases for children and gift buying and financial. We know the financial expectations. We know the cost of living has exponentially increased at the grocery store, at the gas pumps, rent, and other just maintaining. And we'll have a few more weeks to talk about this. But I want to encourage everyone to also consider other ways that they can demonstrate their love this season. I understand that children expect things, and I know I don't have godchildren, and I have a baby boom of nieces and nephews that have been born in this pandemic. And there are many ways that we like to spoil children, but also thinking about the gift of presence and maybe connecting and giving children experiences or other ways you can show your love, living within your means. It's also just wanting to put that pin out there, because the financial stress and the ways that people do everything they can to make it happen and then have a very stressful January, I think is important to share as well, especially in this climate.
Once again, audience and listeners, as Dr. Ashley so eloquently says, get the help that can save your life and make your family life better.
Mm-hmm.
A healthy body includes a healthy mind.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Dr. Ashley.
Thanks, Doug.
I'd like to also follow up with Creighton Davis, who has been a guest on the show, who opened up a coffee and wine bar in Oakland, California. If you are in Oakland, California, I had an opportunity to visit it for the last couple of Fridays. I didn't make it last Friday, but a couple of Fridays prior to that. And it is an amazing establishment. I humbly ask that if you are in Oakland, California, or you're visiting Oakland, California, check out Kinfolks. Instagram at Kinfolks Coffee, located at 1951 Telegraph Avenue, Oakland, California. Or you can Google Kinfolks and get a flavor of their coffee and a taste of their wine. Thank you, audience. Hey, I did pretty good, huh?
You did it. I'm excited about that. Congratulations, Creighton. Love a good coffee shop in my bar. So again, I'll have to, that's on my list when I come up to visit.
Well, you know, it was inspiring to see somebody and he's a lawyer by trade,
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of lawyers, you know, well, I'm gonna categorize him, but I thought it was amazing what he did. His location is on the corner of Telegraph and Grand, and the artwork that he has inside of there, the ambiance of the place, it's very relaxing. Mm-hmm. You can come in there and work with your computer. You can check your emails. It's just a place that is conducive for all people, comfortable. Dr. Ashley, can you take us to a quick break and let's move right along here, since we are, and I think our mastermind producer, she's out, but I can assure you she's doing like this. She's doing like this to me on her clock.
So far, so good, Doug. We have good feedback. We're doing well. We're doing well.
Okay. Can you take us to a quick break, and we will come back with our East Coast, West Coast connection?
Absolutely. Thank you, Mr. Doni Glover of BlackUSA.News. Audience, be sure to tune in to Chapin Friends on Mondays. There's Party Marty, Let's Talk on Tuesdays. There's Black USA Crypto News with Kamal Hubbard on Fridays. And boy, has that cryptocurrency been in the news recently. He knows all about blockchain and those matters. And on Saturdays, we have the Blackout Live from New York with Tashmir. And Sundays, there's 60 Minutes in Black USA with Michael Haney. To join our BBRT advertising family or to be a possible guest on the show, reach us via email, bbrt2021@hotmail.com. In your email, please include your company name, its website, as well as contact information to help us vet your consideration to join our show. Doug?
Well, that takes us into our next exciting part of the show. Now, audience, I want you to pay attention, because on this show, we talk about Black businesses being successful in America. The collaboration that Quandra Gains and I have made and will continuously make. So when I talk to my people on the East Coast, I go, oh, Quandra, yeah, she's talking about voting. And then on the West Coast, Quandra's people will say, yeah, we know that guy named Doug, the one that's like jolly. So, audience, we would like to welcome back to our show host Quandra Gains in our segment follow-up we call East Coast, West Coast politics, not politics. Dr. Ashley, may you please read this exciting lady's bio. Thank you.
Absolutely. It is my pleasure. So, for more than 20 years, Ms. Quandra Gains has worked with small to mid-sized nonprofits, community organizations, schools, and churches, writing grants, developing and facilitating fundraising activities, facilitating trainings, providing administrative, documenting, or capacity building services to organizations, which may consist of researching new funding streams for existing or new projects, to creating special projects, programs, and services to promote a particular organization within the communities that they served. She sits on a variety of boards, councils, and neighborhood groups. And again, as you mentioned, Doug, today is episode 2 of the East Coast, West Coast Politics. Our original episode, part 1, aired on October 6th of this year. Miss Quandra Gains, welcome back. And also, what's not included in her bio, Doug, but what I really enjoyed learning about Miss Quandra on her first visit is the mental health advocacy work that she did and humanizing and helping unhoused citizens, again, return to thriving. So that was great to learn. Hi, Miss Quandra.
Hello. How are you today?
I'm doing well, thank you.
Welcome back, as I said, and welcome back, Carter. Welcome back, Quandra.
How are you today?
Well, Quandra, Dr. Ashley might not, she a baby, so she may not know about welcome back, Carter, and you may not either.
Yes, I do.
Welcome back.
Yes, I do. I remember that.
Okay, all right. Quandra, I hope you enjoyed your Thanksgiving holiday with the family and friends. On our last show, Dr. Ashley gave some points regarding things to do, perhaps not discuss when we all saw family once again, in some cases, for the first time in a very long time. I hope communication went smoothly at your dinner table, because I can just imagine, boy, you had a feeling. Talking to you, I know you had a feast over there.
Well, I did cook, but it was I got to spend time with my adult children, so that was even better. We got to hang out, look at movies, talk, So yeah, we did have a good meal, and we looked at movies. I looked at Till, the movie Till. I'm going to be looking at the was it The Woman King with Viola this evening after the show with my son, and did a lot of reading, a lot of writing. So how was your Thanksgiving? How was yours both Thanksgiving?
I rest. I rest pretty good. I'm feeling great. I had spent time with the family and friends. I ate. I really had a time, and as I stated earlier in the show, I was invited by Mayor-elect Shang Tao. I escorted her to the press conference, and as you know, if you watch the show, don't know, I'm gonna let you know. I supported her and Elisa Victory because we have a ranked choice voting here in Oakland. Elisa Victory's vote, because Shang didn't have the 50%, nor did her competitor, which was Lauren Taylor, council member of District 6. So they didn't have that 50+1. So I have to give Elisa Victory, her votes rolled over to Shang Tao, which carried her over that 50+1, and that's how she was elected. Audience, let's be clear. Every vote counts. And it was my honor. It was my privilege. When I walked with her, to change the landscape of the political people who, in my opinion,
Mm-hmm.
and after this, I'm not going to lay anybody else out because the election is over. Let's come together.
Right.
When we're campaigning, it's no holds barred, and I can assure you, I wasn't barring any holds. Yeah, you can look at my Facebook page. But now that if they had won, I would be saying the same thing.
Okay.
Let's get ourselves together, and not like fingers can be broken off. Let's get together as a fist and combat this problem in Oakland, California, that consists of lack of opportunity, lack of business opportunity, lack of employment opportunity, 130% increase of homelessness population over the last 8 years, and health issues that are pretty much detrimental and concentrated in the Black and brown communities in the city of Oakland, California. Dr. Ashley, how was your holiday?
It was very nice. I have the tradition. I'm the cook. Mom has passed over the recipe, so it's like several years in. But I cooked. We laughed. We listened to the Gap band in the kitchen. Because my go-to, I'm young, but my go-to is outstanding. I had the playlist going and whipped up the turkey, the dressing, the all that. And so it was a great time. It was a really great time.
Thank you.
Thank you for sharing that with us, lady. Dr. Ashley?
Okay, I'm going to get us started. So, Ms. Quandra, can you briefly give us in perhaps 5 minutes each of the top 3 candidate names, offices they were running for, and why you were watching each of these 3 races there on the East Coast? So those top 3 candidate and races that had your attention.
Well, in Maryland, the top 2 positions, we have for governor, Westmore against Dan Cox. And we have our first African-American governor in the state of Maryland.
Wow.
The next one was the lieutenant governor. So we have our first Asian American woman lieutenant governor.
Wow.
So that was amazing to me. There was another race for the 45th district, and that was for delegate. And one of the constituents in Bel Air Edison, Jacqueline Addison, won, and she was a constituent. She did not have, she has a lot of community, work in her pocket, her toolkit, but she never ran for office before. So she's our first 45th district delegate who has no political experience at all. So that was phenomenal too. So that means that if you put your mind to it and you get your backing, you can do anything you want. So those are the 3 races that I really, really looked at. Okay. We do have our 45th district. We have some new players in there, but we have our state senator, Corey McCray. We have our strong delegate, Stephanie Smith, and I'm good. I'm real good now.
Oh.
Got to unmute. You have to unmute. There we go.
It sounds like you guys had a winning season over there too.
Of course we did. Well, you know what the thing is that the present governor, the current governor we have, I did vote, and I was quite pleased, but he can't run anymore. And I think that also we need a change. We need to have our first African-American male, because we're going to have our first African-American woman. And we're going to have our first. So we do need to have people of the global majority, because we need to see people that look like us in office doing the things that we need done.
And I want to piggyback off that briefly, Dr. Ashley, if that's okay.
Yes.
I supported Shang Tao, who does not look like us. But the candidates that and like I said, I'm going to move away from
Mhm.
bashing, but the candidates that were running against her had an allegiance to the current mayor, and it had been brought to my attention
Mhm.
that they were going to hire the current mayor in their administration. So you can't fix a broken car with
Right.
broken parts. So Shang Tao, who is a AAPI person, Asian
Mhm.
American Pacific Islander,
Mhm.
sometimes you have to look at the record
Mhm.
or the records of the person or persons who are running. Because I got a lot of slack from the Black community regarding me supporting Shang Tao. But I've had conversations with Shang Tao over 10 years. That's how long I've been knowing her.
Okay.
And one of the things I like most about her, she is a people progressive leader.
Okay.
She's been on city council and have done some pretty powerful things. And I have talked to her and will be working with her as she transitions into
Mhm.
her new role as mayor of Oakland, California.
So, are you saying that you're not going to have too many thumbs down in the office now?
Oh, we have a few now.
Oh,
There's some Alameda County Board of Supervisors
okay.
who are in my on my radar right now, and if they
Okay.
don't get their act together, I will be providing a picture and a name with the dastardly deeds that they are and are not doing.
Mhm.
So this show is not designed to hold people up if they're not holding up their responsibilities to the constituents who
Mhm.
elected them.
Okay, I appreciate that because that's what we do. We have a report card
That's
where
right.
we talk about different people. They do not know that they're going to be on the list, but we're going to announce them graciously and ask them to come on and support their if they are ballot candidates.
Well, I'm going to say this before Dr. asks. Oh, it's my question, but I'm going to say it before I ask the next question. I've sat down with Shane
Mhm.
over the last 6 months and said, look, Shane, the disparity study clearly outlines that out of $500 million in government contracts, 86 cents out of every dollar goes to white male-owned businesses.
Mhm.
Only 0.32% goes to African-American businesses.
Mhm.
My dad and I had an abatement company where they had the firestorm back in 1990s where we were making $1 million a year cutting weeds.
Mhm.
30 years later, all the businesses in Oakland make that $1 amount.
Mhm.
That's shameful. That's
Mhm.
embarrassing. And that's not the number I pulled out of the sky. Mason Tillman, Dr. Eleanor Ramsey, well-known national disparity study company, did the study that outlined, and they had to pull the information out of the city of Oakland. And this is Oakland's information.
Mhm.
You can't make up the numbers. It came off of Oakland's report card.
Mhm.
So, Shane, I truly believe, audience, I truly believe that we are going to change the numbers, whether it be AAPI,
Mhm.
Hispanic businesses, and specifically Black businesses, because we're on the bottom.
Mhm.
So, election is over.
It's
Time to
on.
put some work. It's time to put some work in.
Okay.
To that end,
Mhm.
was there an election nationally that you were watching on November 8th that you were tuned into, and why?
Well, the one that I'm really looking at is Herschel Walker and Raphael Warnock because I'm trying to figure out how Herschel Walker actually got in the race. Why? So really looking forward to seeing Warnock prevail December the 6th. But it's just interesting to see who people will put in positions to get through or manipulate others to vote for this person. Um, in my opinion, I mean, Herschel Walker is a human idiot because I'm still trying to figure out why he would even vote Did he live in Georgia? I thought he lived somewhere else and they moved
Texas.
in here. Right. So he's not even he wasn't born and bred there. He never lived there. So he doesn't understand what the needs and of the people or his constituents would be. And I don't even think he really cares. So that's an election. That's one of the big ones I'm looking at because it shows you a person who has passion and compassion to do the work and one who has no idea what he's going to do, which means there's somebody behind him who's going to be puppeting him through and doing what they want. So, yeah. So that's one of the elections I'm looking at. Yes.
Well, before you ask the next question, Dr. Ashley, it's been reported on MSNBC that the Reid report with my sister, you know who you, and she's a bad mamma jamma. He has consented to come on her show, and if I know Miss Reid, she's gonna read him the riot act. Dr. Ashley, please.
Sure. Ms. Quandra, I want to go back to the first question I asked about the 3 like local races for you in Maryland that stood out. And the last person that you mentioned, I think, if I recall correctly, you stated that they didn't have any political like experience or hadn't held office before. What was it about, do you think, their platform or campaign that voters had confidence to elect them?
Well, there is and in Baltimore, there are different types of different neighborhoods. And Bel Air Edison is a very strong neighborhood. And when you say that name, everyone knows where it is. Okay. And she works for our mayor. So she understands. So it's interesting to see someone that I saw on a community level in that position. So it's very interesting to see how she will be making her decisions, looking at how I'm looking at the change in how the delegates were. We do have an incumbent delegate, and she's very powerful, very knowledgeable. But it's interesting to see 2 women in delegacy, and we have a young man, Caitlin, who is a lawyer, but he's very community. So it's going to be interesting to see how 45th is going to prevail, seeing what we're going to get out of this whole thing as you know, constituents. So, yes.
Well, let me ask you something. Let me ask you something, Quandra. In Oakland, California, and we're going to adopt your city as our sister city.
Okay.
We're going to work our politics, both East Coast and West Coast, to make one coast for Black people. And that's better living, that's more representation, that's economics, is the Black Business Roundtable. We want to make sure that in order to hold a race of people hostage, basically in slavery, you control the money.
That's true. And what I've noticed too is with this election was kind of interesting in Baltimore because there were so many different people who played a role in what came on our ballot, like term limits. It was actually a news station who, you know, the owner of a news station put millions into this thing, and just seeing how I don't think that most people read their ballot before they voted. I think they just skimmed over it. But this year, I really do think that they did because cannabis it passed. So looking at what that's going to look like, is it going to be more equity for African Americans to enter into that market? Affordable housing. So a lot of different things, schools being renovated. What does that look like? We have 2 members on our school board that are actual civilians, which has never happened. And they're both 2 women, and they're fantastic. But it's just a change, you know. It's like the old leadership is moving on, and now new leadership is moving in. I think that there's more accountability because people are aware. They're looking at our leaders. They're looking at them and saying, "Oh, I don't agree with that. I don't think he's going to be in office anymore." So, and then some people who are actually thinking about coming back into politics. So it's even scale, and it's good because we have a we have a new African-American attorney general, no, state's attorney and attorney general. We have a new state's attorney who's very different than, so looking at this freshness of people coming in, and he's about accountability. So I'm looking at that. I'm like, okay, it's something different. So yeah, Baltimore's getting right. It's shifting to a better place. That's what I'm looking at.
Can I ask another question, Dr. Ashley, before you go ahead?
Sure.
Can you tell our audience how you were able to inform people in your neighborhoods, your communities, your city, some of the issues that they should be concerned about? Because I'm Black, so I can say this and won't seem racist. Many Black people do not even understand the issues. And an example of this is Georgia. Black people are voting for Herschel Walker by name only. Because if they heard him talk and they listened to his rhetoric, they would think he was a clown. So how did you, and give me an example of what I'm talking about. We have an organization formed by a friend of the show. He was one of the co-founders, called SLAP. You like that, huh? Schools and Labor Against Privatization. SLAP. He has gone out with other members of the community, have had marches, rallies, informational monthly meetings, that grabbing neighborhoods and communities leaders to inform them that our schools were being taken away by our mayor, who's going out of office now, and being sold to one white rich millionaire, who is the same person who went to Washington, D.C., or excuse me, who that mayor went to Washington, D.C. to get this one white rich man, John Fisher, owner of the Oakland A's, $500 million. Now, sidebar on that. Do you know how much $500 million would do to homelessness, to the homeless?
They're eradicated, and more. We would have still had more money.
Right. Okay, calm down. Dr. Ashley, you look at Dr. Ashley. Okay. But can you tell our audience what you're doing on the East Coast that's similar or can be similar to what we're doing on the West Coast to inform people? Don't vote for them because he ran 100 yards in one game, but vote for them because they're going to represent you. They're going to give the job training program.
I think he's, I know, Doug, you're excited. You're a little frozen right now, but we hear that passion. Ms. Quandra, how have you been able to inform your community?
Well, Black USA News. I mean, we have some really passionate community organizers from CHAP, from Quita, from Yolanda, from the show Frontline. We're every day, Monday through Sunday. It's on. People are there. We're talking about it. And then we have a connection to the community. We're out there. So it's just a matter. For my show on Saturday, I actually went and got the ballot. Nice. And I was making my notes, and I was saying, did you know that we're applying for a charter for Baltimore City Public, Police Department? And people were like, what? And they were looking for it. Or do you not know that where they're asking for money to do this for affordable housing? People started asking questions. Where is affordable housing? Where is it going to be? Is it going to be in my neighborhood? Taking pictures of development that, especially like on North Avenue, that most people did not even realize that were there, because things are done. It's a developer city almost, I mean, it's like, so by educating, challenging, Mike Haney puts people on, and it's just a lot of different wonderful people on Black USA News that are out there, and they're saying, wait a minute, when did this happen? Why did this happen? And then you start reading. So a lot of times for me, it's a research thing of who's on this end, who's on that end, looking at why Baltimore City had gotten all this money to do this and do that, and then it was sent back to the state. Those are questions that people need. Those are things that people need to hear. It doesn't make a difference if people are mad at you for giving information. That's what we're supposed to be for. That's what we're here for. So Doni Glover, our leader,
right,
he's on the pulse. He's right there, and most of us are, and we've worked in the community and done things. So that's very important to us. And when people feel valued, they're gonna start reading, educating themselves. When I was at the polls voting, I was behind a couple people who were Republicans, and they were, and we had different spots for people who do their primaries for in general election where they could vote and where everyone else could vote. And they were like, I'm tired of it. I cannot do it anymore. So at first I really wasn't paying attention. I had my ballot, but people were in the line with their ballot where they had actually circled what they were going to do. And people were looking at people like, no, I need to take this with me. And people were like, oh, okay. All right. I want to vote for Westmore. And they're like, but you're, yeah, I am, but I'm voting for Westmore. So I was just standing back there like, oh, okay. So I can change my vote. I can vote for whoever I want. Yes, you can. And they voted. So they were celebrating just as hard as we were when Associated Press said he won. So it was a good day.
Yeah,
I apologize. I got cut off for a minute, Dr.
You got excited. So you were excited.
Yeah, you got excited. That's okay. we that appreciate that passion is second to none. And Doug, before I ask Ms. Quandra the next question, I just want to acknowledge when you talk about, Ms. Quandra talks about people having their ear to the streets and their finger on the pulse. I want to publicly acknowledge you. You're still in Oakland. You have these relationships. You have brought guests to our show that love Oakland as much as we do. I'm, been in LA now for 15 years. I want to publicly acknowledge that your passion has brought who were like, people are like, who is that? The workers, the movers and shakers, many of whom were recently elected. But again, that talks about, as Ms. Quandra was saying, the research that you do, rolling up your sleeves and really advocating for people to be on the show that really want to make moves that are beneficial to our city. So I just want to acknowledge you as one of those movers and shakers and the privilege I have to work alongside you. Ms. Quandra, for you, another national election that was happening regard Los Angeles mayors. I've been here for 15 years now. The election of Ms. Karen Bass, first mayor-elect, female mayor-elect of LA, and also an African-American woman. Any thoughts on that?
No, I don't. I would have to research that one.
Okay, good.
I would really have to research that. I don't want to speak on something that I don't know. So I will come back on that note.
Okay. I appreciate that for modeling that research, what goes beyond just the face value. Doug, I see your hand. Yes.
Let me tell you something, LA. You have one of the best choices in America to represent that city. Bass has been a staunch fighter in Congress. She represents all people. And she doesn't back down.
Oh, okay. Well, I definitely need to reach out and see how she's doing. Okay.
Within the next, once I get Oakland on the right track, I might have to fly down to LA and get Bass on the show, let her know that we're rooting for it from East Coast and West Coast. Because Bass, Dr. Ashley, she is going to do a marvelous job down there. I am confident that the people have made the best choice for LA, Los Angeles, California. Great job. Mayor-elect Bass. She is.
Well, she's mayor. I mean, it's just a matter of formality now.
Right. And
Yeah.
no, I appreciate those comments, Doug. And the reason why I asked that question is you talked about as people were possibly crossing party lines to vote in Wes Moore, we saw a lot of that campaigning happening as Karen Bass was running against Rick Caruso, who is a Caucasian male, a billionaire. And so we saw a lot of that crossing lines depending on class issues that were coming up, plans for the unhoused, and different subject matters in Los Angeles that really had people looking at intersections of identity. And so who was for the people, who was for taxes, who was for kind of protecting neighborhoods, not in our backyard. So what's interesting, the campaigns and the commercials and how many actually African Americans were in Rick Caruso's commercials. That was actually surprising for me to see. But yeah, thank you for saying that.
I look at it like this. With Dan Cox, he was funded by your former president, Donald Trump. So it was like almost every person that he touched lost. It was some that got through, but a lot of them lost. Listening to him talk and things of that nature. I mean, he had some really great ideas and things of that nature, but was he really for everyone in Maryland, or was he for a segmented party population of people? So that, that made you think. But I love the fact that he said leave no one behind. So that resonated with me, and that and the way he's picking his transition team, a lot of the people that are on there, these are some really intentional, community driven, people, with the experience. So it's going to be interesting. It's going to be really interesting. I see a shift in Maryland, so that's a good thing.
Here's a question for both of you, Doug, Ms. Quandra. So sometimes, well, one, the turnout, I know Wes Moore is younger and we're more in that same age group, but a lot of young voters were having a hard time bringing them to the polls and then keeping them interested in issues after election. How would you advise people to keep that fire burning of keeping elected officials accountable, but also just participating in their communities?
Wait, is there a buzzer we hit? I can tell you that without even blinking an eye.
Okay.
Go to your city council meeting. And if you can't go to your city council meeting, pull up the agendas of the city council meeting.
Now, let me ask you real quick before you do this. How do we find the time at the city council meetings? How do we find the agendas of the city council meetings?
So a lot of our stuff is electronic. You can actually go on BaltimoreCity.gov and you can pull different things. So you can go on your city's website. You can pull a lot of different things, and they post everything on Facebook, everywhere. So, but the thing is that for me, I think that it starts from home. If you get the parents excited about voting, why it's important to vote, you can't leave a person behind if they're educated about what's going on. So education is very important, letting people know what's going on. For me, it's very important that you have a relationship, or at least know who the people are representing you in your district and for your state, etc. And I think that sometimes that can be a little overwhelming. Also, too, sometimes when you do go out and research it, if you call a government office, sometimes they're not very nice to you. No. That's why it's very important that you utilize the resources in the community, the libraries, because they post everything. But one of the things for me, exciting youth, started with home. Because, when you say, I don't trust him, and you're like, well, why don't you trust him? Well, he has, like, for instance, my one son said he has fish eyes. I said he has fish eyes. Okay. So then you start looking, because he says he's looking both ways, which means he's not really looking at us. And so if he's not looking at me, I can't vote for him. So it made me look at people's eyes to a point when they were talking, like, okay, is he wavering, or is he just promising things just to get in office, or having the politician that only comes around a certain time of year when he's about to vote? So a lot of people started looking at that because we kept putting it out there. Do you know who your state senator is? Do you know who your delegates are? Do you know who this person is? It's sad when the people can say, I don't know who represents me. So just getting people aware, a lot of teachers are putting that in, who's your president, who's your vice president, who's your senators, who's Congress. And people are getting educated about that. But there's a lot of great nonprofits, community organizations that are really out there, kids, rec centers, people are talking to children and seeing. And then it was nice to see that the school board has 2 community representative positions on the board. So, and they're very active. They're on fire. I mean, I'm waiting, and my kids aren't even in school. They're wrong. It's like just the passion, educating themselves, all that kind of stuff. So when you see examples of youngers, like we have a young state senator who is representing us in the 45th district. That's powerful. He beat the incumbent.
Right.
So, my answer will be exactly as Quandra's was. It's all online. Just like audience, you would do research to find out what concert tickets cost, how you can get the best seats. Use that same energy, use that same passion to find out who is representing you and who is not. Also, when the politician, where they city council members, the mayor, assembly, etc., when they have town hall meetings, and now it's easy because it's all done via Zoom. So you can't say you can't make it. All you got to do is turn your phone on, turn off the concert, turn off the whatever you're watching, and take an hour or two and listen. Now, let me give you an example for one of the reasons why I didn't support one of the Black persons who ran. And I'm not stopping because the elections is over, but I need to let you guys know.
Let us know.
Pamela Price brought me in to her circle 6 years ago in 2016. One of the few people in the United States to argue a case in front of the Supreme Court and win. When she took me under her wing and had me going to Alameda County Democratic Central Committee, they treated her like a bald head stepchild. Those white people.
There's that passion again. Oh, there you go.
And I stood up many times. And, I'm a staunch fighter for Black people, but don't mess with our Black women because it's on and cracking around here. I stood up many times and said, hey, give her a chance to speak. And took many white people outside and says, let me tell you something. You better respect her just like you respect white women who get up and speak. And told them, I didn't do it publicly. I didn't make a spectacle, but I had to let them know that this sister wasn't alone. More importantly, we have changed the demographics of our Alameda County Democratic Central Committee, and I'm on the Oakland East Bay Democratic Club. We put more delegates in now. We have now an attorney, a DA, who was formerly the bald head stepchild. Now she is the belle of the ball. But this type of action resulted into wins because you have to know what delegates are. You have to get people in there who are voting. Because see, when in this district here in Alameda County, and I'm sure it's all across the nation,
Mm-hmm.
Delegates in your city or in your county or in your state and nationally can pour money into a campaign for an elected official or not. Give an example. Pamela Price's who she ran against, and I'm not going to mention their name, but we had to fight tooth and nail against the Alameda County Democratic Central Committee because they had rules for him. They set the bar so low that he didn't even have to jump. He just walked across it. But they set the bar so high for Pamela Price, she had to do, as our Black people say, she had to be 10 times better than her opponent. Congressman Eric Sprawwell supported this man who had been a part of a system that has been broken for decades here in the county of Alameda. A system that has put Black and brown people in jail for decades, for little, if not any reason, and have kept them there with no bail. So getting back on another thing that our audience needs to know, when they have debates and they're running for a city council, a mayor, or Alameda County Board of Supervisors, and Dr. Ashley, I can be long-winded because I'm looking at the clock. We got plenty of time. And you know I love time and talking. I attended back in 2017 for a candidate who ran for mayor, and I asked him, I said, look, man, in front of a group of people. Now, this is how well some of these politicians will say something and do something else. I said, the current mayor, who has been devastating the economics in the city of Oakland, who has increased homeless population, et cetera, she is supporting you, right? Well, no, I got money from the community. I said, hold on, man, wait a minute. Where is the bulk part of your money coming from? The mayor. Okay, stop. If the mayor is pouring money for you to be city council, that means you owe her. Well, I'm my own man and da. Okay, stop there. Let's move forward. After he was, and I supported him. Let's move forward.
Okay.
On the day that he was sworn into his council member office, that night was a Tuesday. That Wednesday morning, this same mayor, who he said he wasn't aligned with, took him to Sacramento and had him speak in front of the state legislation of California and tell them a bald-faced lie by saying, I represent the Black people in Oakland and we support John Fisher and the Oakland A's to get a ballpark, and I'm putting this part in, that would devastate the ILWU, International Longshore and Warehouse Worker Local 10. Trent Willis was the president at that time. Membership is 70% plus African American, and the jobs pay from $100,000 to $400,000. You can afford a house, but the ballpark jobs, which are concession stands, et cetera, and I don't have any qualms with that. But you are willing to put Black and brown people, specifically Black people, men and women, out of jobs that pay $100,000 to $400,000 a year to give people who make $50,000 to $60,000 on a good year. So that and many other things made me a staunch advocate for Shanghai. Because if you say one thing and do something else, I'm going to stop listening to what you say and watch what you do. And I'm going to probably reach out to this gentleman and break bread as well as all the candidates who ran, because this show, and Quandra, I want you to take this advice for the East Coast.
Okay.
We have a voice. Malcolm X said over 50 years ago that media is the most powerful thing in this world, in this universe, because media can make an innocent man guilty and a guilty man innocent. All you got to do is play it on the media, and we can change the course of our neighborhoods, of our communities, of our town, of our counties, and of our state, and of this country. And I applaud you for coming on our show today.
Oh, my pleasure.
Oh, yeah. Showing our audience that collaboration and conversation creates change.
Yes, it does.
If they don't know, they know now.
Yes, they do.
Dr. Ashley, please.
No, I think first I'm just sitting here thinking about elections. And as you said, it starts at home. And I think there's optimism across the three cities we're talking about. I think as far as passing the baton and getting that next resurgence, the buy-in, right? Buy-in as far as one, getting informed, and both of you did a great job of identifying how someone can direct their energy to find out city council. And then like I'm a millennial, so I'll speak for millennials, older millennials. What does this have to do with me? Where's the direct impact? And I think that's why, again, some of the people we had on our show that were elected for City Council District 6 and other youth that we've been talking about, there is like this resurgence of a younger presence. Millennials can be very me focused. We can be community as well, but like the older way of doing things, where is this going to directly impact me? For instance, talking to people from home, from Oakland, one of the things that they've talked about, cost of living, small things like potholes, right? So it's like, oh, good. Then they were like, okay, we need to advocate because I'm tired of my tire being burst or this being annoying. Like, who do I go to? There are too many potholes in East Oakland. Okay, great. And so that for some people led to letter writing or advocacy. Who's the first person I need to go to in order to talk about an issue like this? But I think overall, and especially in cities like Oakland and Baltimore, and also Los Angeles, but Oakland and Baltimore were advocacy and civil rights and so many things. These cities have rich legacies, getting the youth to buy into the need to participate. Having the hope, having, going that route is something kind of thinking about that, especially because I don't know about Baltimore, Ms. Quandra, but for Oakland, initially the turnout was low for voters. And it took time to count the votes, but the turnout was not as robust as it could have been. So I think while there are just opportunities to kind of look at that and kind of do research and examine the demographics, of, okay, who's voting and who's not voting and why.
Well, I think also and I agree with you, but I also think that I look at a politician and I vote for a person. I look at how they are able to address and meet the needs of all types of constituents. The older, the seniors, the young, the millenniums, X's, generation, or even the baby boomers, involving and appreciating everyone's talent and as being an asset to the community. Because for me, the seniors, they are the orchestrators, the generals of the phone tree. I mean, they know, they have a network that if you're a politician and you're not able to convince one, because if you can't convince one, see, he or she gonna tell everybody else. The church community, the youth, even, for me, it was quite a few of clients that I had that were homeless that are not homeless now, but they can remember the conversations with the candidate, and he was able to pick up the phone and change their lives, and he didn't even know them while he was running for his campaign. So those things are memorable because now they're not homeless, but you better believe they've already told others that they have come across, this is the man who's going to do this. He's going to change the dynamic. So for me, and then when young people see him and you see him talking to them, not talking at them, not, looking down on them, that was impactful for me. That was impactful for me. So, and there are some politicians that do that. But then there are some, they just, who knows? And the goal is to get them out of office.
And to piggyback off of what Quandra said, senior citizens, if you get that block of votes, that's almost a shoo-in.
Yeah.
Because they don't do nothing but sit at home. They're retired. They talk on the phone. They go, they really collaborate and conversate about what's going on. Two reasons for that is because it's going to directly affect them.
And then there are also the gatekeepers who they read the newspaper. They're not always now I've met some tech savvy seniors, but most, they're listening to what they're saying before, and then they're listening to the conversation after, and they'll make their decision. I'm not voting for him no more. I'm not voting for him. We need to start looking at some other people. So, and then youth, kids, we learn. Who do we gravitate to? Our grandparents. So those are the people that teach us how to really look at the world in a whole different world, because when she goes out to vote, she's carrying a grandchild and saying, this is what you do. So, and when I was standing in line, it made me feel like when I was a kid, when I was standing against my own. So, but I'm hopeful for Maryland right now. I'm hopeful for Baltimore right now. I was kind of a little skeptical. But I bought my home here. I'm here for the long haul. So I just look forward to more opportunities.
And to piggyback off of what you said, Quandra, one or two of the candidates my mother lives in their district. It looked like a third world country.
Oh my goodness.
And I have done everything I could to communicate with these council people about, hey, my mother lives over there. What the heck is going on here? And nothing still was done. So why would I support you and you won't even look after my mama?
Right.
And she has a beautiful, beautiful home in a beautiful neighborhood, but just 1, 2, 3 blocks over, you got crime and grime. City council people, before you run again, clean up your own neighborhood, clean up your own community, clean up your own districts. Don't ask to drive the bus if you can't drive a go-kart.
Okay, I'm gonna use that.
Yeah, I mean, you want to drive the bus, the city, but in your own district, it looks like a third world country. In your own district, a shooting happened in your district, and you didn't even know the school was in your district.
Yeah.
You remember that school that was shot up here in Oakland? 6 people were shot. And I'm not going to mention any names, but you can Google it. He didn't even know it was his district. And you want to be mayor? Come on, man. Come on, you got to be joking me. So these are the types of things, audience, America, listeners, that your city council person, your person, Alameda County Board of Supervisor, or any board of supervisor, your mayor, if they can't do the little stuff right, why would you give them the big stuff?
True.
I mean, I'm not Einstein, but I am practical.
Right.
And you don't have to be an Einstein. You don't have to be, I mean, when I invited a person who was running, who I supported, Mayor Shang. I love winning, so I'm gonna have to savor that flavor. I had people in the community tell me that they had other candidates who came in, who gave a lecture to the group, because my mother allowed me to have Shang Tao come to her house and talk to the community that had felt neglected by their city council people. And Shang Tao Mayor Tao outlined a course of action that would address crime, trash and debris, pothole. She didn't give a lecture. She listened, understood, and then addressed. And I'm going to hold her accountable. Don't think that she just came over and spoke rhetoric and that Doug Blacksher, aka 40 years ago, Debo, is not going to hold her accountable. I'm holding her accountable.
Right.
We have got to stop listening to these boilerplate speeches, and nothing is being done. I should not. The Oakland airport is in one of the districts that one of the city council people is running for, and the Oakland Coliseum is in one of the districts, another district. And let me tell you something. When you get off the plane and drive through within 6 blocks to a mile from the airport, it looks like a third world country. So if you can't fix your neighborhood, you can't fix your community, you can't fix your district, why would I give you the keys to a bus and you can't drive a go-kart?
Because often cases they have the developers' money, and a lot of times that money is the thing that pulls them through.
But audience, listeners, Quandra and Dr. Ashley, the people who are most affected by these elected officials who get rich while we get stiffed are Black people. Hispanics, Asians, and others, AAPI, but Black people in the world are on the bottom of education, on the bottom of jobs, on the bottom of owning their own business or businesses, on the bottom of health. There's all the schools that are being proposed to be closed in Oakland, California, are in the Black neighborhoods. You're not up there. Can you imagine if they had talked about closing a school up in and you don't know Oakland, but Dr. Ashley does. Now, Dr. Ashley, you know Oakland, and your parents were teachers in the Oakland Public School. Can you imagine that they talk about closing down Skyline High School?
My alma mater. No way.
Montclair.
Right. In Monterey, where I went.
In Monterey. Piedmont. It would be a war up there. But under the termed out mayor's regime, they were going to close 11 schools or more in the Black and brown community, specifically Black community. And let me tell you the travesty that would have happened, and that still can, but I'm going to be working with this new mayor to make sure that doesn't happen.
Okay.
The kids would have to cross different sections of Oakland that they are gang affiliation. So they have to cross 2 districts to go to a school that's not in their district. And some of these gang members will say, hey, where do you live at? Oh, I live 2 districts. And you get beat up. You get harassed. You get bullied. And Dr. Ashley, if you can speak to this, Do you know how devastating it is to take a child out of their environment that they've gotten used to, can walk home to school, that parents, first off, don't have money to put them on a bus or drive them or take time to go. So there are so many variables. Dr. Ashley, please speak to our audience about the psychological damage that has been done by these elected officials who nilly-willy go out there and do these deadly deeds to enrich and empower themselves. Thank you.
Yes. Well, I mean, you did a great job of introducing it, Doug. I think it's the dismantling. Well, one, it's the resources, the have and the have-nots, and these decisions aren't really considering the financial resources of working parents or single parent households. As you mentioned, the gas costs to drive the child to and from to school, the social implications for the child of not going to school with people that live in their neighborhood, people, if it's middle school or transitional age, they didn't go to elementary school with these children, adjustments, potential for bullying, and other resources. And then actually learning in environments, not having teachers that look like them. So again, there are several potential negative impacts on the child, as well as the financial cost on the family. It's not sustainable. And you mentioned also the potential for violence and the turf wars that have occurred in Oakland, and that's a true another risk as well. But again, these decisions were not taking into account the power of the community and the need to, instead of busing children out, just bolstering the resources in the community so that people can and do want to go to schools in their district and not have to worry about their children not receiving the same quality of education as a child in Montclair or Piedmont or otherwise.
Quandra, in your town, how would there be a similar effect if the same type of dastardly deed was going on there?
Well, yeah, they've closed down schools. I mean, they've closed down schools in different areas and moved kids to different schools, and they may even have another list of schools they want to shut down. But the thing is that, like you said, when kids, so in Baltimore, they are very in tune to neighborhoods. Like, where do you live? So if you're on the east side, and then you're on the west side, because I was raised in the county. So I learned neighborhoods very quickly. Because there are some people who may have lived on the west side that have never been on the east side. And there could be people on the east side that have never been on the west side. So when you start saying shifting kids to one school to another school, it can play a role. Because if they're not prepared at home for that, it could be disastrous. Yes, definitely.
Well, and I also want to say to the child, it makes that child feel less. Mommy, why are they closing schools near our house and they don't? I mean, kids are very intuitive now, very intelligent. All they got to do is Google it. What schools in Oakland? They know the rich schools, and they know. And I say rich, the money that the city pours money into because based on the demographic.
Well, you know what? There was a school when I was working for our organization. We used to we adopted this school, and from appearance, it was not a bad school. The kids, the family, they were very involved. The parents were very involved in the school, and then they just shut it down.
Well, that's why we need SLAP, schools and labor against privatization. All across this country, audience, listeners, and America. Privatization of schools leads to one thing: segregation. Because if you're rich, you can afford to put your kid in a private school. But if you're not, you are left with the leftovers. And let's be clear, the same academic resources in flatland schools, in Black and brown communities in America, not just in Oakland, not just in the county of Alameda, not in the state of California, but in America. The quality of books, the quality of teachers, the quality of academic preparations,
Mm-hmm.
the quality of sports,
Mm-hmm.
teams, etc., are definitely affected by where you live, the demographics, and how our political leaders are leaving out these kids who are living in areas
Mm-hmm.
that are being left behind. And my thing, and I'm just going to say this because we're getting close to closing out. Our politicians need to remember this: no child should be left behind. That's what the Marines say. We need to teach our politicians. Don't leave one child left behind is too many.
Yeah, but the one thing I've learned from just looking at schools now, the leadership, a lot of times, so like when my kids were in school, there were some that were principals who welcomed, participation. They wanted it. I mean, you could tell the involved schools because they had PTAs. The uninvolved schools have PPOs, and we didn't even know what that acronym was. But, and just like you said, but at the same time, I can remember being part of the PTA and having leadership and changing a lot of different things where teachers felt appreciated, parents felt appreciated, and we were able to advance and incorporate different things in the school that other schools didn't have. So, so that's why it concerns me when they say they want to tear down schools, but then you have schools that kids are going to school in that are freezing cold. For me, I look at the summertime as a way of getting the heating conditions together so that when the kids come to school, the heat can come on. That's not always the case. And then it's leadership, leadership. For me, it's leadership. If the schools are messed up in your district, you need to be held accountable for it. Not just the CEO, but the mayor too.
And also, audience, I try not to promote things, but a movie that I would like for you to watch, which will show a principal, Morgan Freeman. Mm-hmm. Lean on me. Yes. Okay, y'all know what I'm talking about. Yeah, I do. Mm-hmm. See, if we had more principals who had that type of commitment to these young people, we would have more college graduates. We would have more success stories. We have some great principals and great teachers in our schools and the land, but we have some that don't give a hoot.
Because it's not the same. It's not the same. The principals that we grew up with were principals who were teachers who came out the classroom that could go back in the classroom. Now it's administrators. They've forgotten that they were teachers at one time. Some of them may not have even been a teacher. So it's like it's business as usual, and it's cohorts and test scores. And if young boys do not score high in third grade, they're building prisons. So it's a business. It's a business. It's not like that older teacher that every kid had a role. They had a job, and she could teach any person. A lot of teachers don't know how to teach different types of learners. And unfortunately, and that's what's happening when they come into the school and they don't realize that they're audio learners or visual learners or interactive learners. They don't look at that. And then when you get to college, you learn what kind of learner you are. That's backwards. I think you should learn what kind of learner you are when you're a kid, so that you're able to utilize resources to help you learn in school.
Well, I'd like to let me just say this real quick, Dr. Ashley. Audience, we've been tough on teachers and administrators, but I'm gonna get tough on you.
That's what I was getting
if you have a child in kindergarten or 12th grade, get your butts up there and find out what they're learning. If you can't help them, get at as many schools, you can get tutors. Mm-hmm. Even in the flatland schools, you can request for tutor. Put them in summer program instead of running around here acting stupid. Get involved, parent. Don't leave it all up to the schools, because when my daughter went to school, let me tell you something. I knew the assistant teacher, the teacher. I knew the yard person.
Mm-hmm.
I knew the principal.
Mm-hmm.
And they made sure that my child was not left behind. That's why she graduated from University of San Francisco with a master's degree and was on the dean's list. But when I went to school, when I went to Oakland Public School, it was a lot different. And my daughter went to Catholic schools. I'm not going to lie. She live in Oakland, and I wanted to test the theory. If you put a child in an environment that was conducive to learning, would they succeed?
Yes, they will.
Yes, they will. And you got to be involved, parents. Don't just send your kid to school and drop them off and then pick them up. Go into school. Down in Louisiana, when they were having those kids fighting down there, did you guys see that beautiful picture of those fathers? And I'm going to try to get that for the next show, where these fathers were walking around school, and within one day, all the fights stopped. And I looked at them dads. They remind me of me. They would walk around, boy, don't make me. I loved it. So on that note, audience, don't just up to the school. Get involved. Find out what your kid is learning. Find out how you can strengthen what they're learning in school. Make sure they take the homework back to school, and not with chicken grease on it or barbecue sauce on it. Clean paper. Instead of buying them $500 Nike shoes, buy them books, pens, paper, and stuff that can help them do their best and feel competent and capable and competing academically in the school that they're going to. Thank you.
One of the things I think too is that the city needs to understand that there's different age groups of mothers and parents. Right. It's just not the 30 and above. It's the younger adults that are having children, and having that support system within the schools to navigate. Because if you're a teenage mom, you're trying to get your books together in addition, and you need to have that support system for those mothers or those fathers, so that you're encouraging them to continue, so that having something where they can do a Saturday school where they can come in with their kid, or having some kind of activity to help. Because sometimes I know, as a single mother myself, I had 3 children, so I had to be in the mood, and I was involved. But at the same time, there are some principals that do not want you to be involved. They considered you a trouble parent because you asked too many questions. Trouble parent. Yeah, you were a trouble parent because you asked too many questions. Well, when is this going to happen? Okay, when are we going to do the fundraiser? Well, how come you don't have this? And they didn't like that.
But that's good trouble, as Congressman used to say. That's good trouble. Audience, as we wrap this show up today,
we didn't talk.
I had to look at the time because I have a lot more to say, and I said, "Oh, if I go over, Kim is going to kill me." As we have to wrap this show up today, Quandra, what would you like to leave our audience with regarding politics on the East Coast, getting involved, and picking the right, electing the right representative that's going to elect not just affluent and the rich and famous, but people who need representation? Thank you.
Well, one of the things I would say, it's very important to understand what your needs are as a person, as a constituent. When you do that, you're able to pick that leader or that person in a political office that is similar to you. You need to listen to them. You need to advocate for yourself, because if you're not able to advocate for yourself, they're going to look at you as a number. Most politicians, I'm not saying all, but most politicians, they look at the areas who put them in office. They can get a printout of who was voting, who were they homeowners, were they renters, were they older, were they women, were they men, what color they were. And if you're smart, you're gonna put energy in those who didn't vote for you, but you're gonna put energy in those who put you in office. So it's like I always say, life is a business. How you orchestrate it with your children in school, in your work, at your job. This is your business. Your family is your first business, and how you equip them, how you educate them at home and empower them at home is going to give them, they're going to expect more from their teachers, from their community, because they already know that they have a backing at home. Education about your leaders, look them up on Facebook, look at their profiles, look at different things, and then begin to devise. The city of Baltimore, in my opinion, is the greatest city in the world, but we still have a lot of work to do. And one of the things is, it's really nice. We have the youngest mayor. And I know that a lot of Black and brown children are looking at him saying, man, I want to know how he got that. And I may be the next mayor, even though they may not. And then there's some of them may. So one of the things is education, advocacy, really knowing what you're going to stand for and knowing what you're not going to stand for, and putting that on paper, and putting, one of the things my grandma said, there is power in the pen. One of the things is get yourself, orchestrate yourself, equip yourself, and surround yourself with seniors, because they're going to teach you how to vote, what to look for. They're going to advocate for you. They can build the biggest stone trees. And I mean, if you don't feel something, like, for instance, I did not like something was going on in the city, I equipped myself with seniors. They, like you said, they're home during the day. They can pick up the phone, call 311 and say, you know what, you need to pick this up. They're going to call 211. They're going to call whoever they need to get whatever needs to be done. And then allow your children to be mentored by them. You know what I mean? If you don't have a grandma and you got 6 of them in your area, let them mentor. You know, it's about empowering. It's about loving your community and saying, you know what, if you're in office, you're going to do these things. If you're not going to do them, you're not coming in office.
And on that note, audience, she has said everything that I was thinking about saying. Quandra, we appreciate you.
Thank you.
And all what you brought to the show. Audience, listeners, America. This is positive collaboration, moving our people forward. Thank you, Quandra, for coming on the show today. Dr. Ashley, is there anything you'd like to say before we let this awesome guest go?
No.
Now, I would like to know how we can coordinate so that you can come on Cipher, Political Cipher.
Ooh.
All you got to do is talk to the woman who pulls my strings behind the scenes, and I'll be there.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So thank you once again. We appreciate everything you brought today. Audience, this is what we talk about, moving forward progressively together. Thank you, Quandra. We'll see you next time.
Thank you. Goodbye.